Yeah, so let's talk about some DC for a while, man. And this is gonna lead into League of Super Pets and The Sandman, right, off of Netflix. So yeah, some shenanigans was taking place at Warner Brothers Discovery Boy over the past few days. One thing, well, I mean the big announcement, if we which you could kick things off with, sorry, uh, Batgirl
Right.
gets shelved. I like
Which is
the more I hear about it now, the more I realize like maybe they have a dud on their hands. Maybe,
right.
but I
So,
mean I was like at least put it out to the world to see and then let them judge it. Don't just rely on some tests, screenings and whatnot.
well,
But I mean, according to Mr. David Saslav, sorry, that's not the direction we going, bro. So shelve that. And the same thing
so
goes
this
for
is
Scoop 2.
yeah. So I kind of make a joke, and somebody else made this joke. Is like, yeah, we're not sure if this is Ike Perlmutter in a wig or something. Like, it's kind of weird, right? Like this man, he's supposed to be what from Discovery, and he clearly is like on more on the end of like the reality television stuff because he
Yeah,
want to do with this it's about reality television so something with marriage or something like that and
which
make
is
that
by 90 Day Fiance. That's it.
right
Yeah.
that bullshit. And like you're fucking serious, that part of this. And the way how things shaping up is that yeah, either they're gonna like I have no idea if they're gonna even continue DC at all. Like it's quite possible they could drop all of this after these later movies come out now. Because like
Yeah.
for sure we getting, I think for sure we getting Flash, for sure we getting Aquaman, for sure we getting Shazam too, and then for sure we getting Black Adam, right? That's the four.
Right.
Like I think those we in lockdown.
Right. But I
What?
think from there the DCEU might be reset or maybe not. We
Right
don't
now
know.
the thing is we are Black Adam looking like it could be a basis for a reset, which I don't mind because Black Adam's setting up a bunch of characters and like okay cool. Flash also is because of the nature of Flash. It's Flashpoint, and they're doing Flashpoint shot stuff. We could get maybe that maybe. But then it have other shit that they could like not really do. Not sure what's going on. Like the Blue Beetle, that's still going. What's going on with that?
I haven't heard anything from that as yet. I could feel so sorry for Homeboy if that get canceled as well. Too. Like I still feel sorry for poor Leslie Grace. Like why they
Yeah,
doing this to Latinx actors boy who want to be on DC? Like there's something
uh,
going on there.
I mean, yeah, but still though, like it's just I mean, they would have put it out now because they keep saying. Right, my thing is that they keep saying is what do you call it? Oh well, we doing it like Feige and that, but you know, Feige and that kind of power the Batgirl movie though. The power that
Thank
goddamn
you.
Ant-Man movie, good.
Yeah.
Like Feige and that fight up, you know. Like study Feige and them. Study what they do with Ant-Man. Ant-Man director dropouts. And them still do that, you know, and fight it up, you know. They had such faith in the project, you know. And it's not
Yeah.
like some big masterpiece or anything like that, or some big crucial part of the MCU or anything like this. Ant-Man is still is goofy nonsense.
Yeah.
And
And they still make it fit. They still make it
fit they put
fit.
it out.
Yeah.
And this man's cancel a whole movie that was more or less done. Like I get the logic, you know. I get the logic, but still do. Like, dude, what
Yeah.
again?
Again, for me, that just shows just how unsure, just how what's the word I'm looking for? Just they just kind of scared to put this stuff out. They're just so indecisive about this stuff. Like, all right, we really want to make a Batgirl movie. That's how I see it. Like, we really want to make one. I wasn't the one going on Twitter and saying, yes, the world needs a Batgirl movie. They were like,
Like,
we're going to do it. That's what they're saying in fandom. Last year, I believe it was, we doing it. And all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, we did it, but we're not going to put it out because yeah, we don't have feet in it anymore. So yeah, and it makes them look bad. It just makes
yeah.
them look bad. It makes
But
them look
because
incompetent.
yeah, because the main problem is that it's done. The film is done. Like, dude, you don't do that shit for. It's not like it was shooting or middle of shooting. It done more or less. Like at most, it needs a couple of reshoots. Like, all
Yeah,
serious, right? Like, you gotta finish that dog. Like, you know, push it up. But like, look, they talk about money and make money talk and whatever it is. From what I understand, um, you know, Ray Fisher not coming back, so none of that. 'Cause it's not like, oh well, they're gonna address Ray Fisher, you know, and he come back. I think Henry Cavill truly out now. Which is like not surprised.
yeah. He
Uh,
cannot be on this shit now. He beyond
yeah,
this.
you done enough. What else? I don't know. It's shameful. Like I don't know what's going on. I studied that 10 years ago. Well, 9 years ago was Man of Steel. Like
You know.
how Judd?
Yeah.
This is really unfortunate. As I said, I heard a couple of good news from this. Like Alan Horn. I hear you working with Alan Horn to build something up. I'm not sure what's going on there. It's like all right, that's kind of good news, I suppose.
Yeah. So couple things, and then you could get to Ashton, right? So in terms of Batgirl, though, it's just so messed up, man. I mean, not just to the people who worked it, but yeah, to Warner and DC as a whole, man.
It is serious.
And also too, it's just kind of funny because like what last year or year before, I think it was last year, right? Weren't Warner the ones saying yes, we're gonna have with HBO Max, we're gonna have theatrical and streaming releases on the same day. Look at us with Godzilla vs Kong, ha ha
Right.
ha, and stuff like that, right? And look how that pretty much fizzled out, right? So
Yeah.
again, just indecisive. They just have plans, and then when you realize they're working, it's like, yeah, I don't know, but you know what I mean. So instead of like restructuring and doing it better, it's like, I don't know. I want to do what Marvel doing now or what Disney Plus doing. It's
Yeah.
always like they
And
have to
that
look
is-
at the competitors and try to copy
Yeah.
them, you know?
And there's another fallacy too, like the whole Marvel have a plan kind of thing. Not really. Like it's kind of misinformed to say that. What Marvel have is an outline,
Yes.
and then they have a plan with movies. Right? So you have your plan for movies, you have a general outline. Where you think when they introduced Thanos, they was gonna do, they had some super plan and knew exactly what they was gonna do in Infinity War? No.
Oh.
They had ideas, they had Thanos had general conceit, they had an outline from the comics. That's it. And it's the same thing with this. And them are just thinking they're saying a plan, but our plan is not the same. I don't know. As I said, I've said it. I've been saying it since Batman v Superman came out, which is where's Alan Burnett and all of this. You have a template with that. Another person I'll keep talking. Well, I'll talk about later. Who could I be part of this, or whatever. But yeah. I don't know. The whole thing is a real shit show right now. But holy shit.
I know, boy.
I cannot believe they're in this position, dude.
And it's to the point like I really try to care, I really try to care over the past couple of days though, but I was like, I don't know. There's just so much out there in the world I can be concerned about, boy. But yeah, Warner and DC real shit in the bed right now, boy. But anyway, we're talking of Ashton. Anything you just want to weigh in on this whole Warner DC Discovery debacle?
Well, you see, Zaslav have a lot of things going on right now, and there's even rumors that DC Comics might get scrapped. So there's a lot of things happening at DC right now. So can't really put your faith in nothing DC too hardcore right now. I mean, they gave Flash a half season to wrap it up.
Right. Which again, good. They cancel Flash. Good. Like
finally,
they could have done that like 2 seasons ago, whatever.
You know.
Yeah, I don't know if Stargirl dead. Lock and Key is a DC thing. Sandman is a DC property. So now what's going to happen?
We'll get into it a bit, but yeah,
Yeah, so that's my concern now. I mean, DC have good things, but it's like they don't want to build it. They just want the money now. Because if Marvel doing it, they should be doing it. That's it. That's the attitude I get from like the DC camp. But it don't work like that. You have to build it. You all had a chance to do it with the Snyderverse and they fumbled the ball.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah. That's facts, right? I don't know where the relationship went sour there, but that's just facts. They fumbled it big time there because they could have used all those guys and do all kind of things while they was building something in the background.
Because as I said, my thing with the Snyder, again, the problem with the Snyder content is the Snyder part, right? Like he himself should just not be part of creative. That's all I see. He could be part of production, make it look good, blah blah blah. You can't do right. Do right. You're not. You think you're doing something clever. You're not doing anything clever. To have other much better people at this material, get them. We didn't get that. Like we still get him talking about a bunch of shit that he think he being clever at, and all these characters being clever at. And it was just underwhelming in that sense. But they could have built from that. Again, the little hope I have is The Rock, right? Because I think Black Adam have potential. I've seen things that might be like, right. But whatever, we'll see.
Right. So just to use this as a segue now, right? So with all this, or at least me trying to forget this now while watching DC League of Super Pets, by I had just see this right one time before I even jump into talk about the show proper. If only we could get a series out of this way.
Okay.
this actually could make for a great TV series in a way.
Yeah,
But
I had fun with it.
it's if we will get, which we probably won't, but
Yeah,
just the premise of it alone will make for a great TV series. But when I say great, I mean in terms of just family friendly content. That's all I mean. Like you could get like a solid 2-3 seasons out of this way, but I don't even think we will, but unfortunately, right?
I had fun with it. I thought it was okay. Again, it had a few jokes. I was okay. I'm like, yeah, it's not so bad, and mostly because it's just the main joke is the innocent dog stuff. Like
Yes,
the Rock
yes,
as crypto being just clueless is the joke. Like that is it, and it's a good joke. They run it into the ground, but it's still a good joke.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's basically Secret Life of Pets, like that stuff with Louis C.K. that came out. I
All
forget. I
right,
don't know.
I forget about that, but
It's basically that with, but literally that and DC. It's the same joke. It's all the same jokes. A bunch of voice actors. They come and ad lib. They do the powers thing. It had some okay jokes involved. Like I thought the turtle was pretty funny. That was about it. They have a couple bits with, I forget who was he. Who was the guy who played Lex Luthor?
who played Lex Luthor? Boy, let me just pull it up quickly. Mark Marundred.
Right. Okay. Good. Right. Yeah. So it was decent enough. Like that was about it. I mean, it would time. It not too great. Like I get it. It's for the kids. Like if you I can imagine kids liking it or loving it, maybe. But I thought it was fine.
Yeah, well, I echo your views on this, man. But what it is about, actually, in a nutshell, is that it just centers on Crypto the Superdog, right? I think this is actually the first time we've got like a movie about Crypto, I believe, right?
Okay. I have no working memory of if.
Yeah, because I know there was this one TV show, Crypto the Superdog, which I never watched. Like
But
I just heard the team and I thought it was trash, so I never bothered to watch it. But I think this is like the first movie, like feature film, which features that character.
Justice League Action had a episode about him. That is what I remember the last time. But the one thing I thought we was missing was the Streaky the cat. I thought that character could have shown up. That is about it. And then the cat, the Red Lantern cat, could have shown up too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, for me going into this, right? I just only knew Crypto. I didn't know the other characters, but
Right.
it kind of makes sense given the world of this. Yeah, they probably have like their own little spin-offs, or they were in other comics or TV shows or whatnot, right?
Right.
But yeah, essentially, in a nutshell, it is about it is about Crypto, right? We actually see him, from Krypton, and following Clark when he was Kal-El and whatnot to Earth, and when he becomes Superman and all that jazz, right? So yeah, I mean, he is literally the pet of Superman, right? And he feels that kind of way now when Lois Lane steps into the picture. Clark wants to propose her. That's like a kind of a subplot, if you will. But essentially, Superman and the Justice League end up fighting off Lex, because Lex has this scheme involving this meteor of orange kryptonite now,
Right.
and actually, not a lab rat, but a guinea pig that he was doing kryptonite work on a while back, actually acquires a piece of that orange kryptonite, and it's actually voiced by Kate McKinnon. I actually forgot that she was in this, right? She plays Lulu, right? And in the process now, while she acquires her superpowers, this is in an animal shelter, by the way. Other animals acquire powers as well too. So we have Ace, who is played by Kevin Hart. He gets powers. We have PB. This is this pot-bellied pig who gets powers as well too. It's voiced by Vanessa Bayer. I didn't even know she was in this as well too. Merton. This is a turtle who is voiced by Natasha Lyonne.
I thought she was great.
Leon. Yeah, like the moment I heard the voice, like, yeah, that's Natasha. That's Natasha. It's that kind of, that low voice, that sort of hoarse, if you will, sort of
That
New
husky,
Yorker voice,
yeah.
husky New Yorker voice, and it
Mhm.
fits it perfectly, right? We have Chip, the squirrel, who's played by Diego Luna. I think that's it. Yeah, just those, right? So they all have their powers, right? And then, well, through some circumstances, actually, it's kind of funny how it happens, but let's just say that Crypto ends up swallowing some green kryptonite now. It's kind of funny how that happens, actually.
Yeah.
And yeah, it deactivates his powers now, and in the process, Superman is kidnapped by Lex, right, along with the other members of the Justice League. So yeah, it's up to Crypto, who has no powers, and these other the animals who somehow escape, by the way, to help him out. But along with Lex, the other big baddie is Lulu as well too, right? And I'll stop there. So for me, I know that I'm not, this film is like not for me. I just talking as someone in the late 30s, right? It's for kids. It's for the family, right? But I mean, like I just went by myself. I mean, there were kids laughing and all that kind of stuff, and I could tell they were having fun, right? It's a family film, right? Although to be fair, there are some like PG level jokes in it as well
Yeah,
too.
normal thing.
Yeah. But in particular, one character, they're gonna see it too. They actually like use bleeps. Like you actually hear beep, you know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah,
what?
which was
Okay.
interesting. Yeah, well,
Which was
yeah, that's
interesting.
surprising amount of curse for censorship stuff.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty
Or the
funny.
cut the
Like very,
conversation. Yeah.
yeah, like very meta. I think that's why it's this. It's meant to be meta in a sense. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, but overall though, I mean, I had fun watching this. Like I wasn't blown away by this. Like again, I'm old, so it's not like I'm gonna be like lapping up every single second of it, right? But imagine kids watching this for the first time will just absolutely enjoy this, right? And I mean, it being a summer release as well too. Yeah, this makes for a great summer movie and whatnot, right? The animation is decent for what it is, man. I mean,
Right.
it's not like TV level quality animation, but
It-
it's
it
not
look a little
Pixar
cheap.
level animation either.
Right. It's a little cheap looking, but it's still good. It's still fine.
Yeah, well, if you say cheap, I say standard. That's that's the term I would. It looks standard. It looked like if I saw this on TV, um, I wouldn't be like, wow, like they could have spent some extra cash on this, though. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it works for what it is, right?
No,
Voice
we just
acting.
had we just had that pirate movie with the little girl now. I was like, yeah, well, that was,
Oh, right. The CBC, yeah.
yeah,
Like I mean, I'm not expecting Oscar-worthy visuals from this, Like
right.
again, it's not Pixar. It's not Walt Disney animation. It's Warner, right? But I did think, what I mean, because like I went to this kind of expecting this to be along the level of say like the Lego Movie 1 and 2 and the Lego Batman movie, where there's like a particular visual style that kind of
Right.
makes it stand out from the rest. There's a few sort of how to say by fantasy sequences where it kind of fits that mold. But it just kind of like clashes with everything else, but that's the point, right? But yeah, I mean visual wise, it's nothing too overly stylized. Like it's standard. That's all I say, right? Voice acting solid. I mean, you're not gonna get any like really really major standout voice work, right? Dwayne Johnson does this thing, Kevin Hart does this thing. I mean, this is like what the nth time they actually collaborated in a film together.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they have that chemistry, right? And then seeing who Ace is and his backstory, which I thought was
That was
really
okay.
compelling,
Yeah.
and who he ends up aligning with, because yes, slight spoiler,
But I
all sets end up like aligning with the Justice League, right? So who he ends up with makes total sense.
no, well, I know this from the comics. I was like,
Okay.
yeah, we know this character. Yeah,
Right,
he was
and
in
is that-
Batman Beyond. He was in Batman Beyond.
Oh shit, okay.
Character.
Right. You're right. Yes. And because right, so yeah, because right, and he pretty much ends up with who we expected to end up, right? There's a great bit though where you see both of them more or less talking their backstories alongside each other. I thought that was great, right?
Right.
And that's what for me clicked the most was just these subtle references to DC Comics, right? And just the nature of these DC superheroes. Like case in point, there's a blink and you miss moment where you see like hats or something like that. Like you see a sign. It's like, all right, yeah, Jonah Hex, cowboy hat, duh, right?
Right.
It's one of those kind of blink and you missing moments. So I was like, yeah, that's real clever. You know what I mean? I really love that. Yeah, just these smart, subtle nods to what we already know about, these characters, right? Whether it's Wonder Woman or Aquaman. I love what they did with Aquaman, by the way. Basically make him like a goof. I love that.
Cyborg go, but they do Cyborg duty with that half-ro, boy. That half.
Yeah, what is that half-ro? What is that half-ro, bro? What is that?
Nah,
Like,
man.
what is that?
Don't do the boy that.
Hey, good thing he was barely in that movie, Jim. But
Yeah,
bro,
but
what is that? What is that?
What
I
else
love
do
the little reference to Wonder Woman's boots. That's all I say. I thought that was really clever.
Thank you.
And by the way, Batman, though, Keanu Reeves as Batman. I'm not
Right,
saying
yeah.
that he is Will Arnett level great in terms of a Batman that we can laugh at. But this is another Batman you can laugh at, Jack, because when Keanu Reeves does his lines, it's not a lot, but when he does his lines, though, it totally will. He's just fitting the whole, I am grim, I am Batman.
Right.
I love when he says, I miss my parents. That had me cracking up. Like,
Yeah.
it's just these little bits, though, that had me going, right? I was a little iffy about the villain, even though it's voiced by Kate McKinnon, but it worked, right? And the mere fact that it's a guinea pig and, it's been elaborate pretty much for Lex, it totally worked, right? Lex is goofy as you'd expected it to, but yeah,
Lex was
he
great.
works. But yeah, he was still that.
Hilarious in this show.
I know, right? Like he's still that asshole that we love.
Mhm.
But he's still kind of goofy at the same time too, right? But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it is really the crypto story, right? It is about the pets, I should say, right? And yes, the Justice League is put to the back. That's the point of the show. So
Right.
don't go in expecting Justice League to be front and center. But that being said, you still get the DC superhero thrills, because I thought it was just going to be, oh, look at cute and look at the eyes, look how cute this dog is and this pig and blah blah blah. You get that, right? It's purposefully there. It's there to make people go, oh, right? That's where it's there, right? Especially with the dogs, right? I mean, I'm a dog person. It's like you see
Right.
moments, seeing Crypto and Clark together. It's like nice. It's like, yeah, I love that. Yeah, and then
Yeah, they make it, yeah.
yeah, and then balancing and then countering that with Ace's backstory, which I say was like really compelling, but at the same time kind of heartbreaking at the same time too, right? It would, right? So yes, they play on the cuteness a lot too, but you're still getting DC action, thrills and whatnot, right? There's a cat character, there's a cat, right? I didn't even know this character was there, but I thought like as far as an antagonist, the power, the skill set was badass.
Yeah. No, that the football thing is very funny.
I know. That's what we'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's
I know, but I really thought that character could have been like the Lantern character. Sorry, the Red Lantern character, like or something like that. They could have do something more with that, but like whatever, it's fine. But
yeah. And I mean the story doesn't have a lot of depth to it though, but it does have a nice, albeit simple, overly simplistic message about, I mean, adopt a pet, and this is why pets are important and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's an entertaining film. I saw it in theaters, and while this is one of those shows that admittedly I'd probably enjoy a lot more if I was home, I actually didn't feel like I waste my money. Like I felt like it was worth it. It was worth it, but it is really one to see with family, especially if you have kids. That's what the show is designed for, basically, right? So for me, if I have to rate this, strong 3.5 after like 4, man. This was fun, but in no way will I say that this is like one of the best movies of the year. But I would say, like, if you're just looking for something breezy, fun, lighthearted, and what would make for like a great family time in the theaters at the cinema. Sorry. Yeah, watch DC League of Super Pets, man. But just go back to what I said before. I would have liked to see a series out of this, like this, especially the way how it ends. You could tell, like, we have room to make a series out of this, and this makes for TV series material. But given the shenanigans we're going on right now, I don't think that will happen, unfortunately.
But even shows like Harley Quinn on the threat. I think everything on the threat that is animation.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
Real sad times, boy. But at least the show will make you forget about the sad times, if only for. I want 45 minutes, right? But whatever. All right, so Ricardo, final thoughts on rating.
Yeah, no, this was much better than I expected it to be. I was expecting it to be real, like dumb and corny, and it was kind of corny, but like it wasn't dumb. I thought it was reasonably well done for what it was. Surprisingly entertaining and funny, and it worked for the most part. Yeah, rating more like a 7 out of 10. Not a masterpiece or anything like that, just solid. 7 out of 10, closer to 8. I really dug it for what it was.
All right, so up next now with DC, Ricardo, you saw a documentary, I believe, that aired on HBO Max about Milestone Entertainment. So
yes,
yeah, take it away. What's the name of it again? What's the title?
Milestone Generations.
Oh, Milestone Generations. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, take it away. What is this documentary about?
Yeah, so just a quick run through of the history of Milestone Comics. Dennis Cohen, Dwayne McDuffie, just that whole thing, and it's just a group of guys who just want to pull off black superheroes in the comic industry, and all of the drama and goings on with a lot of that. And yeah, they just run through the history. This was a lot. It was hosted by Method Man. It was a lot shorter than I expected, but it was still decent, and it did its job. And it was just getting into the history of just Milestone Comics, what they were doing, what they were trying to say, the types of stories they were doing, and the art style they were going for. They just get into all the history and nitty-gritty. Dennis Cohen was the main talking head. He was pretty good in it. And then they get into the big backstory. And it's a nice complimentary piece to when I think DC Fandom 2 years ago did a little thing on Dwayne McDuffie. It's a big complimentary to Dwayne McDuffie and his passing, and then like some of the ideas on how he thought about it, and then the current paradigm of Milestone writers and artists and what they're doing and what's going on with that. And yeah, that is about it. it wasn't too long or too deep. It was less than an hour. But I really appreciated it. I thought it was really, really well done. Just, getting into the history of it, how art style was in the early 90s, what they decided to do, what kind of stories they were doing. Like, also one of the big things is like, I didn't even know that, that original incarnation of Static Shock was so serious and deep. And there's a lot of like behind the scenes action and fighting down. And mostly it's just the company fighting up with Dwayne McDuffie. And how disheveled and how he became after the fall of Milestone. Because basically what happened is that DC just kind of not shelved them, but they slashed their budget and they slashed the workers and artists was looking where and why. And like a big thing about Milestone is that it wasn't just black comics; it was also a lot of Hispanic comics, and a lot of marginalized groups, a lot of LGBT material it had in it. It had trans characters, and this is in the 90s. So it's like a big deal. Stuff like that. It's like, all right, it do its thing, and it was for what it was and what it was trying to do, it was very progressive, but also really good art and good material. You could do both, as they say, kids, right? We'll get to another project that kind of hint at that, right? It's solid documentary, short. It had a slightly clumsy staging conceit with a bunch of kids in a classroom with Method Man as the teacher. I don't know why they decided to do this. That kind of weird. Like they could have just played straight with him as the host and voice in it. But whatever. Apparently Methods made a song for this as well. I'm not sure if there's a new song. You could probably look that up.
Okay, I would love to hear it actually.
Yeah, in the end he had a song about Milestone. I never heard the song before. I assume he did something. That was him.
Anyway. Yeah, it's clearly for the doc. It's clearly for the documentary.
Right. So that is pretty much it. Nothing super to talk about. I mean, you'll never hear the enemy praising Dwayne McDuffie because he's such a great teleplay writer for a lot of animated stuff, and he more or less they brought him in for Static, right? That's when it started. Like he did Static, and then he went on to do he did him for Ben 10. Did a lot of great stuff for that. Listen, I'm not a big super fan of Ben 10, but Ben 10 is a solid show. Like I know Realm.
Yeah. No denying that. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Real. And then, in my opinion, he did some of the best teleplay episodes for Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, in my opinion.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some good shit. He left us way too soon. They did a lot. I did a lot of stuff with his mother, his widow. They talk about that a little bit and they cover that. And then they just talk about the future of it involving with Dennis Cohen and his work. And it's a great template for anyone else who wants to do comic stuff like us in the Caribbean and us having to pick up stuff when you have no money and you're catching your ass and you have to come up with good ideas and good stories and what you're going to do with that and why. And they make it work. Rating, solid documentary. It could have been a little longer. I felt they could have probably do more detailed stuff, but it's clearly one of those contrived documentaries that there's more control, so it didn't get too nasty or too dirty. But it was sharp within an hour. So rating, I'll give it like a close to like an 8 out of 10. Closer to a 7 to be honest. But it was solid for what it was. Decent documentary in my opinion.
All right. Well, now I'm thinking about it, why they couldn't get formerly known as Little Romeo, but they couldn't get Romeo Miller to be the host. Then he do the theme for the second season of Static Shock.
Exactly. Right.
Superhero
like that,
Static Shock, anyone?
Yeah, exactly. He did the second theme song. That's true. However, moving on.
Yeah, moving on. All right, so to close off our DC talk now, let's talk about Netflix's The Sandman, right?
Sure.
So I will do the synopsis for this pretty much, right? But we have to begin with our experience with, or at least our knowledge of the graphic novel, or I should say comic book series itself, right? So for me, right, I've always heard about the Sandman. This was one of those books that I was always meaning to read, but I just never got around to it. Like I read like Sin City and V for Vendetta and Watchmen before, right? But I never read the Sandman. And as I brought up those three, the main reason why I read those is because hey, a movie coming up, so let me see that, right? And I'll bring this up in my thoughts of this series here, right? So the moment I hear, okay, finally gonna greenlit a series for this, right? I want to say finally because I mean this book was created from I think it ran from 89 to 95, right? Under the watchful eye of the great legendary Neil Gaiman, right? And I mean, once I started reading the book itself, I was like, yeah, I have mad respect for this guy, Dre. In terms of just his creativity Just like his
And
viewpoint
understanding
with the world.
storytelling.
Yeah. Even though it is cynical and dark at times there, but his viewpoint and perspective on life and philosophy and just existentialism though is like just second to none, right?
No, yeah, he's a seriously deep dude with no pretensions, in my opinion. Truly, I have no problem calling him the GOAT. I have no problem doing that. Like, he's one of those who are truly fantastic. I haven't read Sandman in ages. Like, it's a hot minute I read Sandman. I'll tell you when I bought my first copy of Sandman. Not when I read it, because when I first read it, it was internet pirating. But when I bought my first copy, that was when, you remember it had a bookstore next to Long Circular Mall? Anybody remember that shit? What's the name of that place?
What was the name of that place?
Yeah, that was the Vibes place. That was our real Vibes place.
Right. But I think I know you talk about, yeah.
But they closed down now. I know what's going on with them now, or if they move. Then that's why I buy that. That's when I buy that.
Okay, wow.
Hot minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I watched the first episode and I saw the episode where the girl wake up and she have a granddaughter because she got pregnant when she was
right.
Right. I saw that episode because I was watching it and I saw it in passing. Because my mom watching it too, so I was just like passing. I was like, oh, you're here, okay, no problem.
Okay. It's kind of like peeking and seeing. Okay.
Right.
Right.
So I only watched one episode, so I know how the show is. I enjoyed the first episode. I thought it was solid. It didn't wow me or blow me away, but it was just solid. Like, hey, this is good. The guy who they cast for
Morpheus.
Morpheus, yeah, amazing. Like,
yes. I'll talk about that too. Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
Right. But before I get carried away though, Ashton, well, I mean, I know, you being a comic book collector and whatnot, you must, I mean, of course you know about the Sandman, right? But we spoke about this earlier on. You're not a DC fan, right? So, but still, regardless of the fact that you're not a DC fan, you've never like sought out the Sandman, or at least like decided to at least find out why this book is so widely revered.
Right, so here's the problem with me, right? I can't buy random issues of a book. I have to have the entire run, right? And the cost of Sandman 1 is probably like $1,000, maybe plus dollars US.
Damn, son.
Oh, really?
Right? It could be worth even more than that. So I was going to tell you, Ricardo, you should check your copy that you have. If it's a single issue, it would be worth money if you still have it.
Okay, no problem. Well, it's in a pile somewhere.
Honestly,
you should go through all your comic books and check them. You might be sitting on some serious money.
Probably. No, but yeah. Between this, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen Extended Universe and Mouse, that's the graphic novels I rate like super high. Like that's probably my personal favorite now. So yeah, this was.
Still haven't read Mouse, no. Jeez.
Mouse.
I'll read Mouse.
Yeah, I shocked they didn't make a Mouse movie. Yeah, but Mouse is like some seriously dread shit. Like Mouse real bloom.
If they have a watership down movie from like the late 70s, why can't they have a Mouse animated film? Like just saying.
I like Watchmen, but I don't love Watchmen. Like Watchmen good. Like I rate Watchmen pretty high, but it's not like in my top tier now. But
you mean the book, right? The book, right?
Books, yeah, books. But
I love it, but I don't have it too high neither. Yeah.
Right. But Sandman is pretty high because again, we're talking about, and it's at the time now. Like this was the 80s, right? Like this man real hard us.
Like I know why. Like I watch this stuff as like late 80s, man, like transcending, time period, because of all these stuff you talk about. Go ahead.
Gaiman do a version of Animal Man, and it's some real meta shit though. It's like,
you serious? Animal Man, you know.
Yeah, look up Animal Man, right? His run on Animal Man, it's some real dread shit though. I like,
okay,
this man is on next level. When they seek him out and see career and things, it's like, all right, well, this man do shit. Like he could easily be like just an author, straight author. He didn't need to do the comic book thing because at the time, like we still kind of looked down on comic book artists, like even to this day, right? Like I admit that. But I thought this man was real hard for days, and again. If you're called Neil Gaiman the GOAT, I'm not gonna fight you down. It's like, yeah, the man real hard. Yup.
Yeah. So what I'll do with this series here, I'll try to be as spoiler free as possible, right? But yeah, for just to close on my introduction, right? So literally, I started reading this book.
Hold on. Let me finish what I was saying because I get.
Sorry, bro. Do your thing.
Get excited. I went off, right? So I was gonna say, right, in terms of me not reading DC books, there's a reason for that, and the reason is I was a Marvel fan because more than story-driven books, I was more interested in action-driven books and art-driven books at the time. Art that
Right.
appealed to me, right, and that was mostly found in Marvel. But later down the road, I started reading Batman, and then I became slightly a Batman fan, still not a DC fan, and from there, I jumped straight into independent comics, right? So I know more about Neil Gaiman from his other stuff that he's worked on, rather than his Sandman. But I do know that Sandman is iconic stories, telling and writing, and I can tell that from the show. And I'm kind of glad I never read the book, because I go into the show with a fresh perspective. So I have zero expectations, so my expectations are being exceeded currently.
Oh, nice.
Right? Because I like the pacing of the show. I like that it's not stereotypical comic book show, right? Because when people think it's a comic book property, they're thinking action and real over-the-top things and real flashiness. But this show is not about that. This show is about more like the human condition and why we feel we need certain things, and why dreams are important to us, and why hope is important, and why dreams and nightmares are a synergistic thing, and it's just something that you have to live with. And just the character himself, he is neither good nor bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He's
Great
not
character.
a hero. He's not a villain.
Very
He's
nuanced.
he's
Very
just,
nuanced.
at this point, he's a bothered person, right? So he's been bothered by other people, and now he's just annoyed, and he has to go and do all of this stuff just to get back himself, basically. And
yes, you're right.
you know, I think, like, when I do sit down to read this book, which is going to be after I watch the show, I think I'm going to be very happy with the book. I think I'll be more happy with the book than the show, but I'm going to rate the show very well, you know, because I'm one for accuracy, and some shots that I've seen from the show versus what I've seen from the book, they look spot on. They look great, you know. And as I said, the casting of the guy, amazing. At first, my wife was like, "Who is this guy?" And I was like, "Yo, this guy is really handsome." Yeah, I told her that one time. I was like,
I know go in front. Like Tom
Right?
Sturridge, who plays Morpheus. Dude handsome, man. Go front.
Yeah.
And she didn't see it at first, and she's like, "This guy is ugly, Ashton. I don't know what you're talking about." I tell you, we sit down watching one episode, and when she's actually able to look at him and watch him, she's like, "Yo, you're right. You know, this is a handsome guy." I was like, "Well, I tell you that." You know? And his acting is good. I have to look and see what else he's been in, so I can see what he's about now. Or this is his first opt-in. It's amazing.
Yeah. All right, nice. Well, you know, I'm glad that, you know, we hearing perspectives of, you know, someone who is familiar with the books and going into this, and one who hasn't read the books and going into this blind, right? And I'll talk about that in terms of, you know, one's enjoyment of the show, right? But just before I jump in, right? So I'll just say in general, so I literally started reading these books 2 weeks, right, before this aired on Netflix, right? But also to accompany my digestion of the comics themselves, I actually got the audiobook, right, off of Audible,
Nice.
right? Now the thing is, they only have the first 2 volumes of Sandman itself, right? And thankfully, those first 2 volumes pretty much make up this season here, right? So first half is volume 1, second half is volume 2, right? And there's other, you know, volumes as well too. Because remember, this book started from 89 and ended in 95, right? So there's a lot more story that to expect, right? Both in, you know, the comics and the series, right? The TV series, right? So what it shows about it in general is that it centers on the character of Morpheus, right, aka Dream, right? It is played by Tom Sturridge, right? He is the king of dreams and nightmares. Technically, he's not so much a god, but he has godlike powers, right? And essentially, he rules this dimension called the dreaming, right? This is where, you know, basically all human beings go to when we sleep, right? So everybody's dreams, whatever it is, that's where it all takes place, right? He's the guy who runs things, right? So in 1916 now, this one, I would say the soothsayer guy, right, who is played by Charles Dance of all people. Like, I was like, what? Perfect casting right there.
Casted.
Who plays Sir Roderick Burgess, right? He ends up doing this ritual, right, because basically he wants to acquire death, and basically these figures, right? They call the endless. So there's 7 members of these endless, right? So there's death, there's dream, there's despair, who we see, and we also have desire. I will talk about desire as well too, right? But yeah, basically you just see those 4. No any other books you'll see the other 3, right? But yeah, he was trying to acquire death, but he ended up getting dream for some reason, and he was like, all right, well, dream have these powers, and I want to be known as the guy who captured dream. So he keeps him more or less locked for years, right? And through some circumstances, well, Roderick died and his son pretty much took his place. And then, well, this is actually pretty interesting because, like, I wasn't really thinking about it, but the show actually is set in 1989, like the comics, right? It actually is set in, well, really technically 2021, right? So he is freed in that time period. I'm not going to say how or what happens, right? But yeah, in the end, well, basically Roderick's son dies, right? That's all I'll say, right? So yeah, now Morpheus is back out to the world. He returns to dreaming. He runs into Lucien, who is the librarian who works at the dreaming, and smart call in terms of that only making Lucien black, but also making her female, right? Because yeah, in the book it's actually a male white guy, right? I thought it was really cool. So it's not Luciene like in the comics, but it's Lucienne. It's like okay. I actually love the actress who plays her as well too, right? This British actress. Haven't seen her in anything, right? But she just has a look about her, right? I thought that performance wise she was great, right? And yeah, it's just basically about him trying to like reset the dreaming. But what happens is that these dreams are nightmares themselves. So these are like these supernatural figures. They pretty much escape into the real world, as they call it in the show, the waking, right? One of whom is the Corinthian, right, who is played by Boyd Holbrook, right? So essentially, he is a nightmare, and he is pretty much a serial killer, right? And yeah, he has this plan pretty much to acquire power because he know that Dream has escaped, right? And his plan is just to be powerful. So in case Dream try to take him back into dreaming, he could, battle him, right? And it eventually involves the character of Rose Walker, who we learn actually this is the second half of the show. Has powers of her own as well too, and it more involves her being able to travel through dreams, right? And along the line, there's other characters who show up as well too, right? And it all relates to the dream and what he has to do, but also how Morpheus himself views the world, views humanity, and right, and that at the end of the day is really at the heart of what this show and the story of the Sandman is about, right? So jumping into this review here proper, right? So what I will say right off the bat, and this is coming from somebody who actually read the book 2 weeks prior to watching this show, right? This is as faithful to the source material as it ever needed to be. Like, I was genuinely like shocked and surprised at how faithful it is, right? To the point that they lift lines of dialogue line by line and put this into the show, right? It is amazing how they were able to pull this off, right? And in terms of performances, boy, everybody do their thing. Not saying that everybody like pull off some kind of masterful performance, but everybody came, shine, they do the things. Tom Sturridge is great as Morpheus, right? And it's funny, right? Because see the character in the comics and hearing him in the voice in the audiobook. I forgot the actor who played him actually, right? But one thing that is amazing how Tom plays, right? Now, when it comes to the character of Morpheus, right? He's that kind of brooding character who kind of talks to himself and talks to the people, and he's always pondering and thinking about the world and why humans would act the way they do and all that kind of stuff. Pretty much a majority of his role in this is pretty much trying to understand the human condition, right? But how Tom plays it though, like in particular, like if you watch his eyes, right? Like if you notice, he hardly blinks, He barely even blinks it, right? And it kind of works because the character is about his shtick is about sleep, right? So it kind of looks kind of like he's sleepwalking in a sense. Well, sorry, with his eyes open. So it's a kind of a weird thing that he does though. But he plays that sort of brooding, half awake kind of character very, very, very well. Though. This is a stellar performance, I must say, right? Who also shines as well too. I thought that Boyd Holbrook, who plays Corinthian, I thought he was great too. Very creepy as well too, right? Now, what catches me off guard is that he actually plays a major role in this season here. He's actually the main antagonist, right? Which is funny because the first volume is where he is really the villain, right? But here they actually make this decision to make him the primary antagonist throughout the season, which is a really smart call when you think about that. This is one thing that the show really shines with. There's a lot of very smart calls, like just the decision to make Lucien, a female and black, right? I thought it was pretty cool, right? Also in terms of representation, right? Compared to the book, like a lot of, black and Indian actors as well too, right? So case in point, the characters of Cain and Abel, right? The brothers. Well, Cain actually always has this thing about killing Abel, and Abel rises back from the grave and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, they play by British Indian actors, right? I will say, because, and it makes sense because I mean Neil is great. Neil Gaiman is British, right? So a lot of British actors in this, right? But you have some a few American actors too. Like you have Patton Oswalt who plays Matthew the Raven.
Okay. You're right. So I was about to get to that point. But Oswald need to stop voicing goofy characters and side animals.
Dog. He was in MODOK just the other day. He played MODOK.
Corner boy. He freaking MCU as he little elf creature thing. Like what's all of this?
All right, yeah. I don't know. I guess it's because he is a comic actor. So like, yeah, let me play comedic or colorful like characters like that. But he didn't take me out to the show. I was like, oh yeah, all right, because I didn't know who the voice was. I was like, oh yeah, that's Patton, all right. But even like the character of Matthew though, like I believe he was in the second volume, but the decision to bring him in early and establish early on that Dream must have a Raven with him, right? The Lord of Dreams must have a Raven. Like just establish that early on in the first episode. Like, yeah, this makes sense, right? What was kind of interesting in terms of casting and whatnot, and gender swapping, is the character of it's not John Constantine anymore, it's Johanna Constantine, right?
Okay.
I thought that was like a kind of a weird call, but I understand given the context of the book, because yes, the book is set in the DC universe, right? So yes,
right.
The John Constantine that we know, I don't know if he originated from Sandman. But I know like Neil had the opportunity to pull other old DC characters, right? So I'm not saying that Sandman is where you first see John, right? In comic book form, right? I don't know, but I think the decision to have John be Johanna in this case is just so we don't have to connect it to Legends of Tomorrow, where John Constantine is a major player in that, right? Now cancelled Legends of Tomorrow, I must say.
Right. Well. No, the other thing too is that because again we will see how Black Adam turns out, but like there's a lot of magic stuff that might be setting up for going forward now. And
okay.
They might be trying to separate it from that potential John Constantine from Justice League Dark.
Right.
Maybe. I'm not sure. So again, feeling that is some of those. I'm not sure if it's creative changes or not. We'll see.
Yeah. And one thing the show also does too, right? Like it kind of visually like excludes itself in the DC universe, right? So what you will see, ironically, that you brought up the whole Milestone comics, a character is shown watching static shock of all things, like okay. I like that, right? But in no way, like compared to the original series, comic book series, do they reference Justice League or Batman or something like that. Case in point, John Burgess, aka Dr. Destiny, right? In the comics, he's called that, but they don't ever mention it in here. So in the comics, he was in Arkham Asylum, but here's like, no, it's just this psychiatric place in Buffalo, New York. That's it, right? Yeah. I was like, all right, that's interesting too. And it's played by David Toulis, right? Haven't seen him in anything in a long while, right? Speaking of which, so you will see some familiar faces in this, right? Like case in point, Gwendolyn Christie, right? If you remember, who played Tart in Game of Thrones. She played Lucifer Morningstar. Like, all right. Okay. And it actually worked though. Like, I know a couple people kind of make fun of she hairstyle in this though, but I thought in terms of like, I rule hell though, and this is me. Like, I thought it was really cool though. So, just to touch on story quickly, right? So, pretty much the major stories that take place in the first two volumes are visualized here in this series here. There's even to the point where you will get like a couple of actual issues put together, right? And that makes a story, right? Case in point, involving the character of Death, who like in the old book was is a white woman, and actually in the audiobook is played by Kat Dennings of all people, but she have a real nice voice, I'll give her that though. In this case, they get this black British actress to play her. I know I saw her before somewhere, but she looked very familiar. Yeah, she played Death, and it works, right? Like in no way did I find myself questioning, wait, no, but if they're related, how come she black and he white? Like that wasn't me. I was like, oh gosh, it's gods, right? The spirit, like whatever. Nobody cares, right? The character of Desire, right, actually is, non-binary, right? And, one thing that actually amazes me about the book, though, is how forward thinking and progressive it was in terms of, LGBTQ representation. Because yeah, you do see numerous characters who actually fall within that spectrum, right? And case in point, Desire is one, right? The person who plays that character, I thought they were great though. Like just the look, the voice, they nailed that. They nailed that absolutely, right? And yeah, just like the second volume where they show up, um you don't see a lot of that. You don't see a lot of Desire, but when that character is there, yeah, they own it, right? For sure, right? And I would say that if you are familiar with those two volumes, yeah, you will notice a lot of visual cues. Like I say, they literally borrow line by line and whatnot. So yeah, you will just enjoy like, oh yes, I remember this, I remember this. Like case in point with Corinthian and the serial convention, which by the way, that concept alone is brilliant, right? Like when I saw that in the comic book form, I was like, wow, only something like that could come from the mind of Neil Gaiman, right? Like the serial convention. What is this, right? Especially like the dialogue that goes on there. That is so amazing, right? Now, that being said, though, this kind of leads to an issue that I know a lot of people will have with this, right? If you're a fan of this, if you know the books by heart or whatnot, or if you're at least marginally familiar with it, or at least in my case, how I read the books recently prior to watching this now, you really would be surprised by what happens in this. Like I saw everything, I was like, yeah, this pretty much plays out exactly what was in the books. Yeah, so nothing really like, amazed me or shocked me. I was just like, yeah, it's exactly how it was. All right. But I don't mean I wasn't entertained by it. It's just like, I know what's gonna happen, I know what's gonna happen, I know what's gonna happen, right? There are a few twists and turns here or there, but other than that, the stories stay pretty much the same how they were, right?
Yeah. So it's only the only big change is really the casting and the look of the characters. Like, okay, is a black person or a white person or a woman this time? That's about it. And in this context, it's not particularly a problem for me personally, because it's like, yeah, they're magic people. Like, who cares?
Exactly. They're magic people, right? And speaking of that too, like for people who go in blind, just like you know, the Sandman is weird AF. Like when I was reading the comics, I was listening, I was like, yeah, this shit weird though, but good weird, great weird, I must say. But yeah, but I know like this series, I would say this season. This even Sandman as a whole is not going to be everybody's cup of tea. It's not going to be. Some may find it a little pretentious. Some people might find it way too existential. Some people might find it too dark. And yes, the comics in particular were pretty dark, like goddamn dark in my opinion, right? If I have one little tiny nitpick though, is that yes, there are some dark moments in this season for sure. But again, because I know what to expect, is like, yeah, dark, but it wasn't as dark as what I discovered it for the first time. So it's that kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like you know what to expect. So when you see it expressed again, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that, but not as dark as what I saw it for the first time, right? And this leads to just my personal issue with the show, right? Now, as I mentioned before, I mentioned V for Vendetta, Watchmen, Sin City, right? Those books. Oh, and I forgot to mention even 300 as well, too, right? So those books always had like a specific visual style, right? So with Sandman, it's very surreal, right? There's a lot of like macabre imagery and surreal visuals and all that kind of stuff, right? Now, while I applaud this show, right, for at least going out of the way to make the fantastical stuff look as believable and as lifelike as possible. And, also I forgot to mention to even get ILM involved in this. So I'm like, what? ILM in this? Oh, okay, bro, okay. Spend all your money. And yeah, apparently they spend a lot of cash per episode to do this. They pump a lot of money into this show, though.
Yeah,
and
it shows,
right?
really look good.
It shows. It looks sleek. It looks sleek, right? But I will say though, like for me personally, because you're adapting such a revered book, right? I felt like, some of the artistic stuff from the book could have been translated a little bit more into this, right? I'm not blaming it on the directors involved or the cinematographers or the people who do the VFX, but I just find personally there could have been like, all right, like say Sin City, for example. You can look at the book, watch a movie, and be like, yeah, it looks similar, right? Same with 300, you look at the book, ting. Even to extend Watchmen, you look at the book, you look at the movie, right? Like I felt here like we could have gotten that. Like here, it just feels like a standard, so to speak, TV show, like something that you could just see on TV. And like if you just went completely blind and nobody told you it was called The Sandman, was based off of this graphic novel, you'd be like, okay, I didn't even know that, because it just looks so standard, in terms of like big budget TV shows.
It reminded me
I just felt like it could have had something more of a visual flair that reminded me of the original book.
It reminded me a little bit of, remember Jim Henson's The Storyteller? It had that kind of
I remember
vibe.
that. I never saw it. Yeah.
Okay, right, yeah. Now it had that kind of vibe to it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. But I know you talk about I just wish that there was something more visually to tell us, not only is it from a comic book, but the visuals really add a lot to the storytelling. Because I felt that the visuals alone in that comic book too did so much in terms of just creating this dark but still fantastical world, right? But in terms of its themes of life and death, right? Yeah, really, what the show is about, what this series about, this the story as a whole is about. Yeah, it's about life and death, and just how humans looked at and reacted, right? It's a very dark and grim world that Neil make though, and at times it just chills me to my core, dread. How much this man actually get away with this, so, like, just how deep and dark this man went with the storytelling alone. But it's like, jeez, but like, wow, you know what I mean? But you could see how it trickled into other, fantasy books and TV shows and whatnot.
Very
like you could see, like, while I was watching, it's like, this is where Game of Thrones get the whole vibe from. This is where Castlevania, the series, get the vibe from. Like, you could see how influential that is, though, So I just felt like while they nail the tone now, they nail it well, they nail the narrative well, and the characters and the characterization and all that. But just from a visual perspective, we could have gotten more of it. It could have been a little bit more stylized and weird, you know what I mean? But that's just me off of reading the book and hearing the audiobook, right? So again, that being said, though, I believe that people going in blind would appreciate it, though. But I would say if you could at least familiarize yourself with the source material, I think that will help with your enjoyment of it a lot more. But I do hope that with this show here, that at least more people will actually check out the books, right? Because they're great. I really do need to read the rest of it, right? That being said, though, I am a little bit concerned of the reception of this, right? Because I know some people, like some diehard fans, felt that it doesn't live up to the hype. It's faithful, yes, but it's not. It kind of falls short, you know what I mean? Along that line. I imagine some people going blind might think this thing is weird and pretentious and makes absolutely no sense. But I do hope that the reception continues to be positive, though, because I think that this needs another season. Because there's more story to be told anyway, right? But there needs to be more, man. I really do hope that more people give this a watch. If it's not your cup of tea, fine. Same thing like the book. If it's not your cup of tea, fine. But give it a try, man. Give it a try. I believe that you will enjoy it and appreciate it for what it is, and especially with how faithful and how the creators went out of the way to make it as faithful and authentic the source material as possible, man. So, rating-wise, as I saw the whole thing, I'm going with a light to decent 4 out of 5, man. This actually surprised me, man. I was like, wow, okay, they really put effort into this, though. I just wish that visually it could have harkened back more to the actual comics themselves, right? Into that weird, unique visual style that they did in that book, right? But that being said, the characterization is there, the dialogue is there, literally word for word. Just and even the themes themselves that Neil explored so great is there. And last thing I'll say before we move on, I must give credit to the writers behind this, though, for kind of simplifying the story, though. Because for me personally, if it wasn't for the audiobook, I probably wouldn't understand, say, 40% of what I read. Like, the audiobook kind of helped guide me along into what the vibe is, what they're going for with the story, like in this dark tone that they go with, right? But here, the story is simple enough for you to understand the world and the characters and motivations and whatnot, right? So I must commend the filmmakers for that, man. But yeah, this one has promise, man. I do hope that more people check it out. And lastly, Netflix, don't cancel this trade. Or they have a hit on their hand with this one. Don't cancel it. I don't know about what's going on behind the scenes with Warner, but y'all don't cancel this too, please.
Yeah, they had to pick it up because the Stranger Things wrapping up, and they need something weird for people to eat up. So I don't know.
Yeah, for real.